Did you get all the closed caption stuff?
Yes.
So if we put this captions up, you should be able to see that.
same thing happened. I ran out of weight. So that's where I learned this thing. You gotta peel them apart because you can't tell that.
Oh, it's true. Right. When people are hungry, they're focused on.
Yes, well, yeah, got it. All right, everybody ready?
Sure thing.
Okay. The September 11, 2019 Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting is now convened. Pam, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Platt,
Here?
Commissioner Gambetti. Here. Commissioner Moreland Capuyo. Here. Commissioner Myers. Chair Cruz.
Here. Thank you. I think maybe before we get started, we'll just have a brief moment of recognition that this is the 18th anniversary of September 11th. And, you know, there's people that, you know, we were all affected in some way, some people more directly than others. But it seems like we should probably recognize the victims and first responders and all of the rest of people directly affected. So anyway, thank you. All right, Commissioner reports. Commissioner Platt, would you like to start?
Yes, I'm blanking on my dates, but last Friday, I led the Hacienda CDC board meeting. Wow, and I'm sorry, I don't know the date. We'll find it. Okay, thank you.
No report.
Anybody? No report?
You have nothing to
No?
report.
Okay. And I attended the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce's annual Hispanic Heritage Dinner at the Oregon Convention Center on September 6th, along with Executive Director Branna. Executive Director Branna.
Good afternoon, Chair Cruz and Commissioners. I'll share a few events and other milestones that we've marked, and then I want to talk a bit about some upcoming events and a grant program that is open, as well as introduce one of our great new staff members. So to begin, I joined AWS Elemental and Community Partners on August 22nd to celebrate the expansion of Amazon's Portland Tech Hub in downtown Portland and the addition of as many as 400 new jobs. The new positions will include software developers and architects, product managers, and other IT professionals. We've had a long-term relationship with Elemental and then AWS Elemental, which started with Sam Blackman when he was founder. And I want to appreciate our tech cluster expert, Jared Wiener, for his leadership in that relationship. I spent time tabling at the Jade Night Market on Saturday, August 24th. This is consistently one of my favorite events. And my family loves it as well. And I want to appreciate the great job that Apano's J District, which is one of our Neighborhood Prosperity Network partners, does in running this event. I also want to acknowledge Damian Crowder and Dana Decline and Talia Martinez and all the staff who came out to table or attend the event. Wednesday, September 4th, we presented the Old Town Chinatown Action Plan extension to City Council. The extension was before you at our last board meeting and was unanimously approved by City Council. So I want to appreciate Bernie Karofsky, Ann Mangan, Lisa Abwaf, Eric Jacobson, Lisa Norwood, and Talia Martinez here for all their work and the engagement with the community, as well as getting us prepared to take that to City Council. And I want to appreciate the community members who joined us to support. On Friday, September 6th, I also attended the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce's Heritage Celebration Dinner, where we celebrated 25 years of their service and leadership in the community. And this morning I moderated, or I served as the moderator for BizNow's 2019 Portland State of the Market. I followed Mayor Ted Wheeler, who gave the keynote and talked about the state of the market. And my panel focused on notable investments and acquisitions and highlighted through this discussion a lot of long-term optimism about Portland and some short-term headwinds. So that was a good conversation to be involved in. So looking ahead, just a few things. The next meeting of the Russell and Williams Project Working Group is set for tonight, 5:30 at New Song Community Church. You can find out more information at prosperportland.us/events. Tomorrow, I will be participating along with other Prosper Portland staff in the Eco Capital Reception event. Prosper Portland is a key partner in this event with Virtue Lab to increase access to capital for clean tech firms, particularly for small women-owned and people of color-owned firms. And I want to acknowledge the strong partnership with David Kenny and the Virtue Lab teams. I also want to recognize the great work of Prosper Portland's Pam Neal, who's been the leader from Prosper on this annual event for a number of years. On Saturday, September 14th, I will be attending SEI's Soul of the City event. You can go to selfenhancement.org/events for more information. It's always really meaningful and a very fun event. Also on Saturday, September 4th, I'll be attending the Oregon Nikkei Endowments 30th anniversary celebration event. This event will be held near their new space at 4th and Flanders, which they, as you know, recently acquired from Prosper Portland. You can find out more at oregonnikkei.org. One final note is that the Community Livability Grant application period opened yesterday on September 10th. The application period is going to run twice as long as normal, so there will be a 4-month period to provide interested organizations time to craft their proposals. So proposals are due Friday, January 10th, 2020. We are seeking proposals from community-based organizations for projects that foster vibrant and healthy neighborhoods and improve the prosperity of area residents and businesses. Projects must be located within either the Gateway Regional Center, Lenstown Center, Interstate Corridor, the Central East Side, or Old Town Chinatown neighborhoods, so in one of those tax increment finance districts. And priority will be given to projects that benefit communities of color or people with low incomes. You can find out more both about past recipients, which give you a very good idea of what will be funded in the future, the kinds of projects that we will invest in at prosperportland.us/CLG for application details as well. So now on to our newest staff member. Very pleased to introduce Bim Krumhansel. I knew I was going to get that wrong. Sorry. Our new real estate portfolio analyst. Bim brings a well-rounded real estate finance and asset management skill set to our team, with experience spanning multifamily, office, hotel, and industrial properties, debt and equity funds, and real estate investment trusts. As a real estate analyst at CrowdStreet, Bim prepared online offerings as well as analyzed distribution, returns, and performance for closed offerings. Prior to his work at CrowdStreet, Bim was a project manager at Beam Development, where he created financial models and assisted with negotiations for both office and hotel developments in Southeast Portland. And prior to that, he was assistant vice president at Williams & Dane, where he managed both asset management for hotels in Portland and Los Angeles. He's a native of Amherst, New Hampshire. He graduated from Colorado College with a degree in biology, and he holds a Master's of Professional Studies in Real Estate and a Master's of Landscape Architecture from Cornell University. When he's not working, gardening, folk music, and dancing and hiking are a few of Bim's favorite things. So we're delighted to have Bim and his expertise here at Prosper Portland. Thank you.
Great. Welcome, Bim. Glad to have you. Great. All right. Thank you for that report. Okay. Next up, we have approval of the meeting minutes for August 14th. Would someone like to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Approved unanimously. And then do we have any public comment? Nope, nothing yet. Okay. All right. Next up is item number 6. This is an action item, adopting Prosper Portland real estate property plans. And Lisa Abloff and Amy Edwards will present.
Justin's going to click for us otherwise.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Cruz and Commissioners. I'm Lisa Abloff. I'm the Director of Development and Investment, and I'm joined by Amy Edwards. And we are going to provide you an overview on the property plans that we've been developing to provide kind of clear strategic guidance on each of the property real estate assets that Prosper Portland owns. And the specific action would actually be to adopt property plans on a per asset basis of what we own in order to transparently kind of share with the community our strategic objectives, our financial outcome objectives, as well as our equity objectives for each and every property, and to allow for direct communication with our stakeholders around how we're thinking about our properties and as that thinking changes, and to share with our development community about how we're going to enter into negotiations. Thanks. So as I mentioned, what you'll see in the documents that have been shared with you is there is information, there's site information, there's strategic plan alignment information, there's some information about how each of the properties was contemplated within the financial sustainability plan. Thank you, Justin. As well as priority equity opportunities that we see for each property. As you take the action today, what will be adopted and then shared publicly is what sits in the gray box of each of those plans, and then staff will continue to use the other categories of information to continue to track on a regular basis. We hold regular pipeline meetings internally just to understand what's happening with each of our properties, and we'll be sure to track and update via that mechanism. So we did, before we kind of jumped into where we headed with our property plans and the important role that they're going to play as we think about our compilation of properties as a portfolio of investment opportunities and return opportunities, was to take us back in time slightly to our financial sustainability plan, which really sets the North Star, and then map forward about how the property plans become a really important tool in terms of assessing our performance against the financial sustainability plan model. And just as a reminder, the financial sustainability plan had two key components when it comes to our development work. First, it had what we would consider kind of a tax increment financing or a cash component, where, as you saw during the budget cycle, we assigned to each of our resources that we have available to invest kind of a performance objective to it. So we have a category around grants and infrastructure that has no return anticipated. We have a category around mission-related investments that aims to achieve closer to market investments, and those are all in the downtown areas. And then we have what we call program-related investments that target a 2.5% or a below-market return. And then the other important component that was in our financial sustainability plan was really going through and doing an inventory of each of the properties that we have. And while return targets were intended to be flexible within the plan, like the remaining TIF budgets, we did put kind of a classification to distinct properties, and specifically properties where we thought they could get closer to 6% return, given the level of investments that we've made in and around those areas. And we'll touch on what some of those properties were today as we walk through this presentation. And then we also have key properties where we're starting to think about the scale of investment. So we have a significant opportunity as well as a risk within the post office site relative to a 4th and Burnside or a Block 25 that was recently announced in terms of selecting a development partner. One thing I would flag is, again, the financial sustainability plan was intended to be a North Star for these properties. So not all of the properties were included. We actually have some new properties that Amy's going to touch upon today who have come into the portfolio since the time of the approval of the financial sustainability plan. And we also knew that market forces were really going to have an important impact on how each of our properties was going to be able to perform. So this is our effort to kind of map where have we been with the financial sustainability plan, and then how do we see the property plans as kind of the next step in building on that foundation into a portfolio management software that we're putting in place called Yardi. And I'll just walk you through a little bit of kind of where have we been and where are we moving towards. So from a methodology standpoint, the model that sits behind the financial sustainability plan looked at the existing net operating income that we get off of operating assets and kind of projected that forward. And then on a really specific set of properties, it put a 6% return based on kind of a one-size-fits-all to those assets, because it was our North Star of 6%, and that could be realized through land leases or other mechanisms. Our goal in having these property plans on a per property basis and having created categories of properties is to be able to really start to dig down in each of those properties and in each of those categories and think strategically about where the major risks are for each property and where the major opportunities are. So that's what you see in kind of that second bullet is, what was the purpose of this and how are we thinking about it? The only other thing that I would call out from this table is that Yardi, once we've entered the data that you see in these property plans into Yardi, will actually be able to model different scenarios for the properties in real time. So that can be for our net operating income properties, where we can say, if we invest X amount into this property, what's its capacity to return additional community benefits or additional financial return? And then we'll also be able to roll up distinct scenarios for each of our properties into a portfolio performance and then be able to compare that back to the financial sustainability plan's overall projections for our asset portfolio. What we're going to touch a little bit on today as I transition the presentation over to Amy is that the same key drivers that were really important to the financial sustainability plan back when it was approved continue to be really important to the underlying performance of our real estate assets. And so we'll touch a little bit on those, and particularly on things like Broadway Corridor, ODOT blocks, Cascade Station, where the timing of disposition, the level of investment needed to really kind of realize the value of the land, et cetera, becomes key and critical, and actually starts to impact our ability to perform on other assets. Because if we're making less on certain properties, we're going to need to understand how that's constraining our negotiations on other properties within the portfolio. And then what we want to make sure that we're doing is on a regular basis coming back to the board and reporting once we have the portfolio functionality in place with Yardi, that we would be back before the board reporting on how does that compare to the financial sustainability plan and how does it compare to our budget projections. So with that, I will hand it off to Amy.
Thank you and good afternoon. So as Lisa had mentioned, we have made this transition from looking at our assets in the context of the financial sustainability plan to that of an overall portfolio management approach. And while we take a lot of the elements of the FSP with us, we do look at things in a slightly different way. As we are operating or managing these assets in real time, we have a different way of characterizing them in addition to their financial performance. So as you can see, the first category is what we refer to as our remnants. And after having a look at all 50 of our assets, we've determined that there is a grouping of assets that are, for our purposes, undevelopable, and they don't have the income generating potential that we would associate with an asset that we would either want to develop and sell or to operate and hold. We find that these assets are incompatible in general with our mission and with our strategic goals, and therefore the decision needs to be made in terms of how we transition these assets to another partner. Often these assets are more appropriately placed in one of our bureau partners' portfolio, but they, as you know, have their own set of operational challenges, and so the conversation that needs to happen is at a level from bureau director to bureau director in terms of how best to successfully transition those assets to a place where they can more fully be realized for their own mission purpose. The second category is what we call operating hold. And those are the assets that have a demonstrated return in terms of NOI. They have a high strategic alignment with our goals, that is the strategic plan or a community plan such as the action plans, and it's got an expectation of steady return. So these are the assets that we know that we can depend on for a reliable income stream that supports our programmatic goals. We didn't include in this particular slide a category that we have, which is called operating sell, which is to say that they are currently in our portfolio, they are generating income, but they are not generating the type of return that would be consistent with the assets that we've decided to place in our operating hold category. And we didn't include these specifically because we're making great progress in transitioning these assets out of our portfolio. For example, the Old Town Lofts commercial space, which we brought to you last month. The other broad category that we have for our properties are the assets for disposition, and they can be in that category for a variety of reasons. One reason would be that the value in terms of the community benefit outweighs the income that the asset generates, and the sale would be in alignment. So the example I just gave you would be Old Town Lofts. The second reason would be that it's a site that holds significant value, not only from a financial point of view, but also strategically, and it's prioritized accordingly. Another asset that we brought to you last month being 4th and Burnside. The third category is a development site that's inactive, and there is an opportunity to optimize both financial and strategic value, but we don't have an immediate priority for this, and that could be due to resource constraints, either monetary resource or staff resource, or there is just a priority that supersedes that particular asset in that category. So there are certain categories of asset where you will find that there are assets that were in the financial sustainability plan and others that were not. And an example of an asset in the financial sustainability plan that has strategic consideration is Union Station. It currently outperforms its expectations on an ongoing operating basis compared to the financial sustainability plan. However, at that time, we had not contemplated a significant investment in the infrastructure of the asset itself. Therefore, the true performance over time is not correctly reflected in the financial sustainability plan. We know that there's going to be a shortfall. It's going to be significant. We don't have a target number as of yet. We're currently undergoing an exercise to more precisely identify the need, but it will be significant. And we also recognize that it's a unique asset in that it acts more like a transportation asset or an infrastructure asset than would be consistent with our typical portfolio. Therefore, we know that we need to enlist our Bureau partners in order to address the needs associated with this asset. Another characteristic of assets in this operating hold category are to optimize the net operating income. We have the Inn at the Convention Center in our portfolio. It does generate a constant, predictable income for our agency, which then therefore funds our programmatic goals. It's also consistent with our strategic goals in that it meets a need in the overall hotel market. It's a moderate price point. It serves the convention center clientele, and therefore it's consistent with our goals. We are in the process of identifying the possibility of a significant investment in order to maximize the net operating income. And so with that analysis comes a strategic consideration in terms of the amount of investment that we make in this asset compared to our hold period. This is an asset along with the 910 building and the OCC Plaza that's contemplated for development in perhaps 7 to 10 years. So while we know that it will eventually be developed, we haven't fully identified how long this hold period will be, and the consideration will be what is the appropriate level of investment relative to the benefit in terms of NOI, also keeping in mind that there is an identified priority for this asset or this collection of assets to be developed in a relatively medium term. We also have assets that were not in the financial sustainability plan for one reason or another. Lents Commons actually falls into the lending investment portion of the financial sustainability plan, not the real estate asset, whereas 10th and Yamhill and 106th and Halsey were not contemplated at the time. All three of them have commercial tenanting opportunities, so there's an opportunity to optimize the income. However, those assets also come with challenges in the form of community benefit considerations as well as general market considerations, specifically Lents and 106 and Halsey, which are in commercial markets that aren't as robust as 10th and Yamhill. Our category that we consider development inactive, as I mentioned, the 910 building and OCC Plaza, which combined with the Inn at the Convention Center make up a potential superblock for future development. The 910 building is what we call a U building. It currently incurs some operating costs, well, in excess of what we would prefer to expend. However, we're looking at ways to creatively deconstruct the 910 building and therefore minimize the holding cost, hopefully generate some revenue on this asset in the medium term before the development vision is realized. Cascade Station is a challenging site because it has a very focused use coupled with the shortage of staff resources to dedicate to its development and disposition. So we need to think strategically around the impact of delaying the development of this asset on its financial return. In the development active category, we have considerations around the minimization of holding costs and the timing of disposition, particularly around certain key assets in the downtown core. Centennial Mills and the old fire station are both historic properties, and so the need to think creatively around these properties because of their unique characteristics that drive holding costs. And also with historic properties come the community expectations around either the preservation or the development of those particular assets. Also, we have found that security is becoming a significant expense in terms of holding costs. And so we try to mitigate those expenses. At Centennial Mills, we've had some moderate success in temporary uses, which generate a very modest income, but also mitigate the need for security. But unfortunately, the old fire station doesn't afford us that same opportunity. So in terms of optimizing new revenue, the consideration around 4th and Burnside and Block 25, which we brought to you last month, is of course the competing interests of the need for generation of revenue of those sites with the community expectations associated with those sites. As you know, we received those proposals and they generated a lot of community interest, and with interest come expectation. We need to be mindful of how we balance how we meet expectations with the community as well as meeting our own financial sustainability goals. And I'm going to turn it back to Lisa.
So we wanted to spend some time with the board just walking through Broadway Corridor, because what you'll see as we just think about the scale of the development and as we're moving forward with our master plan, with our negotiations with development partners as well as community benefit partners, is really the Broadway Corridor, specifically the U.S. Post Office site, has a ripple effect through the remainder of the financial sustainability plan model as well as the portfolio. And so it's going to be important as we're moving into those negotiations to be running different scenarios about where are we falling on the spectrum of kind of investment through to benefit, and how are we thinking about the long-term return impacts that that may have on our portfolio. And there are a number of risks associated with the Broadway Corridor, in particular just given the scale of the post office site. Amy can certainly answer any questions. We have increased holding and site prep costs. And that runs the gamut from security, similar to what she expressed on Centennial Mills, as well as the old fire station, all the way through to the demolition costs, which have increased significantly since we first accommodated for those in the financial sustainability plan. As we kind of knew would occur, but it certainly is happening, there's changing property value. As the market itself changes, there's kind of fluctuating value of the property. And as we're undertaking the master plan, really defining what the developable parcels are. We do have a line of credit and other loan obligations sitting with the site based on the manner in which we acquired it. And then we also know that given market, that the development will occur over time and in phases, and we're just right now starting those conversations with the development partner, as well as significant community expectations coming off of both a coalition of community groups as well as the steering committee conversations that we've hosted. And so as we're thinking about the post office site and the trade-offs and modeling different scenarios as we move forward, we want to be conscientious of their impacts not only within the site but also across the portfolio. So impacts on 4th and Burnside or Block 25, or how it increases expectations on the ODOT blocks or on 92nd and Herald or other properties that we own out in other areas. So the trade-offs, as we're thinking about, is how do we both leverage other resources to the table in addition to the land value and the tax increment resources that we have through partnerships with our bureau partners, through partnerships with the city of Portland in terms of the line of credit to whom we owe the line of credit, and then also partnerships with our community benefit partners as to what kind of other resources can be brought to bear to accomplish some of the community benefits that we share. And again, kind of at the end of the day, what we were wanting to make sure is that as we're thinking about different scenarios and modeling those different scenarios, which will build on this project plan for the post office site, how is it impacting other properties within our portfolio? So with that, we wanted to share just a little bit about next steps and timing of how do we move. We've now moved from the financial sustainability plan to the property plans. How do we then move into kind of a portfolio analysis and a scenarios and running scenarios for each individual property?
So you've already met our new member of our asset management team. Now that he is here, we can begin our advanced budgeting and forecasting module training, and that will be complete through the end of September. Once we are up and running with what we call ABF, we will be creating the different scenarios for each of these key properties. We will be working iteratively with our development team to refine our assumptions around the possibilities for these different scenarios as we look at a conservative view, an aggressive, middle of the road, any other possible scenarios that might be appropriate for the individual asset. We'll model these different scenarios, roll them up to a portfolio level, look at how each of the key drivers influence the performance overall, if there are particular areas where we can think creatively around the optimization of the income to the benefits. And again, will be an iterative process throughout our department. We'll identify some key strategic decisions that need to be made. We will surface those for leadership team, and certainly once we're in a position where we have what we feel are accurate and actionable scenarios, we will be reporting any strategic changes and requesting changes as they are appropriate. We will use this information not only for just reporting out, but also through our negotiation processes and to make decisions around investment, capital investment, or other investments that we think would be opportunistic and advantageous for realizing both financial and strategic outcomes. And we will provide reporting to the board on a regular basis, and that reporting will be aligned with the budget process.
With that, we'll take any questions.
Can you talk a little bit about what the public will see when they go onto the website and how they'll be able to access all of the information that you guys are pulled together?
Sure. So the idea is that what the board approves would be available on the website. If there is further information, there is contact information where members of the public could reach out for more specific information, but we have the intention not only of sharing the gray box, but also more information around opportunities for use of the site, whether it be through leasing or interim activities as well.
So more just a comment, thank you. I just want to repeat all the things that you sort of said, because I think this isn't, it sounds like really loud, kind of. But I think what you've identified are sort of the tensions between the reality and lots of changes and weighing that against the sustainability plan and the community benefits agreement. And I think that those tensions are really important to highlight and really communicate around, because it's sort of could potentially put us between a rock and a hard place. And I don't think that's where anybody wants to live. So you talked about sort of security and changes in cost in that, the changing market, the line of credit that you still have to pay back while managing these 50 properties, the community benefits agreement, changes in property value, the infrastructure cost. And I think you posed the question of sort of delaying development versus financial returns. I do think that these are all like worthy of a larger discussion. You've got 50 properties, and I think you've done a beautiful job of sort of identifying and categorizing sort of what's remnant and can go away, what will produce some financial profit over time and what won't. But I think it's also worthwhile for us to sort of appreciate what I hear you saying, which is there's some very real tensions. While we want to achieve the goal of serving the community, which is our primary goal, we also still have to make sure that you're working and the agency is still here and it's financially solvent. So I don't know if this is the point in time to entertain that discussion, but maybe to, in the near future, just carve out some time just to address it publicly, just so that folks are really aware of what those struggles and challenges are. Because I'm a firm believer where we increase understanding, we increase the risk for change. So I want to thank you, and then just wanted to sort of point that out for the record. Probably to acknowledge what you already know, but just to make sure we all kind of know and understand the same thing. And you can correct me if any of those things are.
No, that is right on.
No, absolutely.
Very
Thank
accurate.
Yeah, and just having this as a tool, right, to not only look at each project independently as it comes to us, but then to take a step back and see how some of the decisions that we're making impact the overall portfolio and where there's give and take and some opportunities to shift the resources as needed, but recognizing that there is a ripple effect, right? And I think this is just having a dynamic tool like this is going to be really powerful. So.
Yeah. And I want to come back. One of the things we've talked about, particular to Broadway Corridor, is coming back sometime probably in and around November with an executive session with the board to talk about those trade-offs. So that while we're in the midst of negotiations, we have the opportunity to engage you in that discussion and kind of get your direction and guidance as to how we're landing between the different kind of places that we could fall on a spectrum.
So then this is a presupposition, but that the new wonderful hire, did you say you went to Cornell? Okay, so I'm just paying attention to all these different things. However, so I have expectations. He's left. Anyhow, that maybe that a part of that discussion too would be about what should be sold. Should we still, 50 properties? Do we really need to be managing 50 properties at this time? And what needs to be sold and what should be maintained to sort of pare down and simplify, put some money in the bank and relieve the headache for the folks who are doing this work. I think those are real conversations and decisions that should be made sooner than later.
Great. Did you want?
And I'm wondering how reliant we are right now on the website being the primary vehicle for communication with the public at large. I know in conversations I've had off and on over the last year or two, a lot of people are surprised to know that Prosper does own a lot of property, right? And that we are making this kind of shift into becoming more of a, an enlightened landlord, if you will, in a way. And so I'm curious again to Commissioner's point is that, if we are going to be making decisions around the disposal or use of any of these properties, we want to set the framework appropriately for the public at large as to why we're doing it, what we're doing, right, what we have, et cetera. So, and I'm curious if the website is necessarily the best vehicle for communication.
It's a good question. I need to kind of sit with it for a minute in terms of disposal. Our lead staff person working on the affordable commercial program on the leasing side, certainly kind of one of her major first pushes is around how do we market all of the properties that are either online for lease and or coming online, and how do we both do that on the website just so we have kind of a landing page for folks to go to, but also how are we working with all of the community-based chambers to make folks aware of those opportunities. And she's also been meeting and working with our Inclusive Business Resource Network staff so that our network of partners is also aware of those properties and making sure they have a one-pager or whatever that walk-around material would be useful for their businesses. I think we should sit with Sean and the communications team and just thinking a little bit about how do we talk about if we're going to sell property, how do we talk about it more widely and with an equity lens? I think that's a great question.
And if I can, I think we definitely have a process when we are disposing of a property and we're anticipating developing it, right? So the properties that we brought forward, 4th and Burnside, Block 25, we had 6 open houses and a lot of engagement. I think it would be accurate to say that we didn't give a lot of context in terms of these are 2 of 50 properties, and it can become kind of unwieldy and, right, this just a lot of information. So working with the communications team to synthesize and be able to say, you know, these are 2 properties that we're disposing in a neighborhood you care a lot about, and for more information, go here, or here's the contact information would be really valuable. I think a few years ago, we started putting up signs, so that if you go through Lundstown Center, vacant properties actually have a sign that says, this is owned by Prosper Portland, and if you're interested, contact somebody. I think that was helpful just in terms of increasing for those people who drive by or walk by, that their awareness that that's something that's owned by Prosper Portland. But I think now that we have these property plans, it's a good opportunity for us to dust that off. So, yeah, it's a good point.
Right. For my part, I'd just like to thank you for this project. This is really great work, and I know it's been a Herculean effort. There's a lot of material to draw together. It's taken a long time, but it's a super tool, I think, for everybody to work with. So thanks for all your great effort on that.
We would be remiss to not thank Ember, who's sitting in the audience. MVP of the work.
Thank you, Amber.
Conveniently hides behind posts whenever possible.
I also want to kind of tag along with something Commissioner Moreland-Capuya mentioned, which was a thought I had too about expectations, particularly with respect to the post office site. You know, we've talked about this in another context, but, you know, it's worrisome that, you know, there's so much expectation riding on that site, and we have constraints, some of which we didn't really anticipate at the outset of the project. And so I just want to, you know, emphasize that I think we need to think about how to, if not diminish expectations, you know, adjust expectations a little bit so that we're not sort of whipsawed at some point, and that the public isn't. And then with respect to access to the information, you know, I don't know if, and maybe this is something we should talk about offline, but, you know, I often get questions from people out in the community. Somebody will say, well, what about this property? What's going on there, you know? And sometimes we've just had a board update about it. And so I actually have some useful information. But other times I don't. And I wondered if there might be some way to access these materials like the, you know, that includes the updates, maybe like a little portal or something, you know? Because I know that I could call you and say, what's going on with this property? But it might be more efficient just to be able to click on something if that's possible. So and I think the other commissioners might find that useful too. So anyway, okay. Any other comments, questions? No?
How,
All right.
who, do you have someone, like, who's the point person dedicated to, like, this is like a whole job, like, to manage this and keeping the updates. So is there support for that?
Well, Ember has been taking the lead on the creation of the property plans to date. So they will live in asset management. The updates to the property plans in terms of the factual information, if it's a change of project manager or a change of just relative, you know, straightforward factual data, would be updated through her in conjunction with the development project managers. If there were ever decisions that needed to be made that would necessitate a request to the board for a change of a strategic direction, then it would, by definition, come to this forum.
I can just see that potentially getting overwhelming, just as someone who I mean, I think we all do the same thing, but to have information shared and then the expectation that it'd be up within 24 hours might be unrealistic. So I think maybe just setting some parameters. We still want people to be well and want to come to work the next day. So to figure out how to have the information presented and then maybe an expectation for 2 weeks later or something, and to be clear on that. So updates will be given every 2 weeks or something, just to clearly communicate, because I think that is unrealistic, to be quite honest.
Yes. That aligns nicely. We have a pipeline meeting that happens every 2 weeks, so it aligns nicely with.
Look at there.
Okay, any further comments or questions? No? All right. Well, that was a great presentation. Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion then to adopt resolution number 7337 and the Prosper Portland real estate property plans?
So moved.
Thank you. You have a second? Second. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to adjust the schedule slightly and move up item number 9, which is the intergovernmental agreement with PBOT for gateway infrastructure improvements. We already have people here to testify, so we'll adjust and move up. So, Thea Muncho. Hi.
Chair Cruz, Commissioners, Director Branham, thank you for your time this afternoon to consider the Central Gateway LID. My name is Thea Munchel. I am a project manager here at Prosper Portland and the relationship manager for the Gateway TIF District. I'll be presenting this afternoon about a request for infrastructure improvements in Central Gateway, how this project aligns with our strategic plan, the financing associated with this project, and the development that this investment may engender. Your action today will authorize the agency to enter into an IGA with the Portland Bureau of Transportation to complete the infrastructure improvements. The IGA will provide up to $2 million in funding for new streets in Central Gateway. This action aligns with the Prosper Portland strategic plan by investing in healthy, complete neighborhoods, job creation, and 21st century partnerships. The new streets will create a number of jobs during the construction period, and those jobs will be the workforce and equity policies that apply to those jobs will be managed through the city's construction contracting through PBOT. This action aligns with Prosper Portland's strategic plan by investing in healthy and complete neighborhoods and by implementing key strategies identified in the Gateway Action Plan. The action plan specifically highlights the importance of investing in strategic infrastructure improvements in Central Gateway and the potential for those investments to unlock redevelopment opportunities. The project also aligns with the Central Gateway redevelopment strategy and the Central Gateway Master Street Plan, which were both created through extensive community engagement led by Prosper Portland. The Gateway Action Plan was developed with 3 different geographies, which provide strategic guidance for us for our investments that are unique for each one of those districts. In Halsey-Weidler, you have seen the bulk of our focus within that district, and those investments have included the Gateway Discovery Park, infrastructure improvements to Halsey and Weidler through the streetscape that was recently completed there, as well as the Halsey 106 project, which we brought earlier this year to the board for your authorization, which I'm excited to highlight did break ground earlier this week and will have its official groundbreaking ceremony on September 20th. Also within the strategic focuses include the Gateway Transit Center, which has kind of a focus on connecting both the transit center to the Halsey-Weidler Business District and positioning new development opportunities within that district, as well as then Central Gateway, which the sole strategic item within that district was to complete infrastructure improvements and kind of build out that street grid that was highlighted in the Central Gateway Master Street Plan. So the Gateway Master Street Plan was an outcome of the Central Gateway redevelopment strategy and identified that a barrier to development within Gateway was the incomplete street network. So this, the action today, the IGA that we're bringing to you, would complete street improvements within Central Gateway that are highlighted within this plan and also that we believe will spark new development opportunity within the district. Here is a zoomed-in area of the streets in particular that would be improved and constructed during this work. Whoops, sorry, that was supposed to be a pointer. Okay, so in 2011, we previously approved an LID to create to improve the street conditions on 97th. And as a result of that, we saw development here for the Rose Apartments, which was 90 units of mixed income housing. Earlier this year, PBOT and City Council approved the completion of the improvements along 97th all the way to Burnside. And today we're looking to approve funding to build out Northeast Cooch and Northeast Davis. And what that does here is creates this network of connectivity, completes the street grid as highlighted within the Gateway Master Street Plan, and allows for development of these blocks. We have with us today the landowners who are looking to redevelop these properties and currently have a project here in for design review, and also have big plans for the additional blocks that would be created by the new infrastructure. And they are looking to construct up to between 1,000 and 2,000 new housing units in Central Gateway, which I think is better highlighted in this plan here. You see how, once completed, the new streets will allow for a more compact and also dense investment strategy. Our TIF investment would be partnered with additional funding from transportation system development charges from PBOT, as well as an assessment to the existing landowners that would complete about a $7.8 million investment in the road construction. Again, I just want to highlight that a number of the work leading to this point has been informed heavily by community participation, both through the Gateway Action Plan, the Central Gateway Redevelopment Strategy, and the Gateway Master Street Plan, all of which have had a number of community involvement opportunities throughout the process. And then the developers have also been really engaged within the community and have done a good job of communicating how this investment from Prosper Portland and from PBOT will work to provide the opportunity for them to develop the new housing units. Questions?
Okay, we have some public testimony, so why don't we do that first, and then maybe if you could come back afterwards for
Certainly.
some follow-up. So we have three people here, Gordon Jones, Joe Westerman, and Larry Jackson. If you three could join us, that would be great. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
Thank you. So, who would like to go first?
Well, I'll start, I guess, and thank you for having us. My name is Gordon Jones. I live at 9837 Northeast 99th Avenue. I'm sorry, 9837 Northeast Irving Street, just 2 blocks north of this neighborhood, in a project there that I developed 15 years ago. I've been working and developing in the Gateway area for almost 25 years. Developed several projects there. All of them, by the way, have had the participation of PDC, now Prosper Portland, every single project. So thank you. It's been a little slow out there. It's taken a lot of patience, but I think we're finally turning the corner. And that's largely thanks to Joe Westerman, who has patiently, for the last 15 years, been slowly buying up little houses. And we now have assembled between he and I and Andy Baltz, who's a fairly large property owner in this 8-block area that Thea Munchell has described. We have assembled enough property to build in excess of 2,000 housing units. It's the only remaining undeveloped RX zoned land in the city of Portland. It's the same zoning as South Waterfront, Pearl District, and downtown Portland. So, as you know, Gateway is a regional town center, and the city has always had big plans for Gateway, but those plans have just never really materialized. And partly it's because the private sector has nibbled around the edges, but never really been fully committed out there. We are an urban renewal area. Unfortunately, we're close to expiration on that. So we're very excited that Prosper Portland is with us and has committed this $2 million, or is hopefully about to, together with $2 million in SDC funds from PBOT, to build these cross streets and open up this neighborhood for the development that it deserves. My last project was right in the middle of this neighborhood. It's called The Rose. It was 90 units. It's 4 stories. It will become the smallest building in this neighborhood, I'm sure. But it was kind of what got this started, this whole process. And we did an LID for that project as well. We built 97th down as far as Davis and built the first cross street. And we built it as a half a cross street with PDC, BES, and Metro and other. I mean, we looked at several pots of money before we finally found a way to build that and get that project done. It's been very successful. 40% of the units are affordable at 60% of MFI, and the rest are at market, which is about 70% of MFI in Gateway. So we now have, I and my partners, 2 projects that we're looking at doing. One is 61 units and one is 77 units. That one's not a for sure because we've applied for bond money, and that would be an affordable housing project in partnership with YWCA, and would have a third of the units at 30% of MFI, and then probably 2/3 at 60 is the way we have it structured. But there's 138 units in those 2 projects that are, one's out of design review, the other we just had a pre-app meeting on yesterday. So that's a little bit of the history there, and that's really probably I should stop and let Joe and Larry talk. I do want to say one thing. We have really formed some great relationships in this process in our efforts to try to be very inclusive and to address structural racism and the other equity issues that need to be advanced in the city. And in that effort, I've reached out to Larry Jackson and a group of people that he has assembled that we're working very closely with. We've also worked very closely with Nate McCoy at NAMAC to make sure that in our construction efforts, our development and ownership out there, that we're really going to go the extra mile to make this. And just as of today, we finished forming our relationship with ERCO also, which is a huge player out in the Gateway area. They have created the diversity out there that we see today. And so Mr. Lee and Jeff McDonald are on board, so they're part of our team as well. So Larry, why don't you go ahead?
I'll try to keep mine brief. Thank you very much for allowing us to come and speak to you about this project. I'm extremely excited about this project because I've been working either with the city, with the county, with the state for the last 35 years and directly in the community. I've seen what's happened in the community. I'm really touched by what's gone on with the community, and Because I've dumped a lot of services in the community, I feel that I'm one of the stakeholders that has to now use my last hurrah to make sure something happens to mitigate what's gone on with the gentrification, the removals, the other things that have happened. So I tried to assemble through the Nehemiah group what I call stakeholders in the community that have been there either 20, 30, 40 years, experienced it, and or in decision-making processes to be either consultants or people that help make sure that this community becomes a very diverse community and that those that would like to stay in that community have the opportunity to do so. And it's been just delightful for me to partner with Joe and with Gordon because of their willingness to be open. I don't need any more pats on the back. I've been there, done that for 35 years, so I kind of know what that looks like, feels like. And to have someone who's sincerely ready to put property up and say, okay, you bring the other pieces to the puzzle that are necessary to make this a reality, then we'll do that. And that's what we've done with the Nehemiah group. And so we're going to build the community around the people as opposed to build buildings and then do infill. So I think the community then will reflect the diversity that we expect to have in that area. And I think the city will see it as a crown jewel. It'll be an example for other cities. It'll be a teaching experience in there for the wraparound services, TA services, and just the notion about how do you teach people to live together harmoniously. And we expect to do that with this particular project. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Joe Westerman, and I've been doing business in Portland for building apartments and managing apartments for over 25 years. And I feel like everything that I have done has prepared me for this point in time in Gateway. And I miss meetings, and Gordon has been to all of them, and they might ask, well, where's Joe? Joe's probably in Gateway talking to someone. And I have spent a lot of time here, and it just excites me to talk about building a community. And you know, my other projects, they're communities too. This is just a much bigger community, and with Gordon and Larry and all the people they bring, it's amazing. There is energy, and we can make a difference in this neighborhood. And the two biggest hurdles for this area, and it's just kind of been a little bit sleepy. Number one is the streets, which we have addressed, and number two is the fractured ownership. There was just, you know, it was the neighborhood was built in the 40s, and it served those people well. Now we are building for a new generation, and we want our buildings to show it. We want leading edge buildings. We want buildings that are diverse, that are safe, that look nice, that will carry the baton for the energy in that area. And in fact, I've got a design here. I'm so excited about it. The ink is still wet, and on block 4, we're looking at 315 units, fully, a full density, 10-story building, rooftop for everyone, landscape, the parking is below grade, all the good stuff. And we, you know, the streets were the main thing, and then bringing the properties together and the group of people, we are ready to go. And as you monitor you'll see our energy, and we're going to make a difference. And thank you for having us today.
Thanks for coming in. Are there
Any questions?
Questions, comments?
Just a quick point of clarification. The write-up here mentions you are forming a nonprofit or have formed a nonprofit association. What is the name of the association?
It's called Livable Gateway, a nonprofit association. We formed that around a year or so ago, and that's one of the things we're going to do is to try to build some parks and open spaces. We don't know how yet. We're still looking for a way to do that. We've identified the areas that we want to build them in, and that entity would take ownership of those parks and open spaces and monitor the clean and safe, neighborhood watch, engage the residents in maintaining and overseeing that neighborhood. So that's our plan, and it's also the entity in which we've done the urban planning, and we did a massing study. We hired a company called HDR to do that, and they did a wonderful job. So we've put a lot of thought and effort and resources into getting to where we are today. It isn't something that we're doing without a lot of thought and planning. We're trying to do it right, and that's why we formed the nonprofit, is that planning and oversight agency. Yeah.
Great.
And do we, as an agency, do we have any input into working with that 501c3, that nonprofit agency?
I don't know that we have any official capacity. I'm looking to Thea. Not at this point.
Is that something we would, given our experience and other types of developments, we would want to explore in order to help support and guide the 501c3's role, because it seems significant?
Yeah, I think when Thea comes up, let's engage her in that conversation.
I just want to say thanks for coming, because I think you guys brought some really valuable context to what is otherwise just streets. So, I mean, just the enthusiasm and experience combined with your community mindedness is palpable, and I think it's super exciting. So I just wanted to ask you, because the notes we had just talked about, the inclusionary zoning and the amount of affordable housing that might come out of that. It sounds like your approaches are a little bit more ambitious than that. Have you done some master planning, and how much of affordable housing units you might expect? Is it at the sort of 10% range, or are you aspiring for more?
The first two projects, the first is already out of design review, and that's 100% affordable, but that's totally a private sector project, and it's 100% affordable at 80% of median family income. It's built to a 5-to-1 floor area ratio, so it qualifies for a 10-year tax abatement because of its 100% affordability and the 5-to-1 FAR. The second project, which we're hoping to hear any day now, yesterday or today was the goal from Portland Housing Bureau on whether or not we were successful in, part of the bond offering solicitation this spring, we put a proposal in. That, although it's a private sector project, it's not going to be owned by a nonprofit. It's 100% affordable at 1/3 at 30% of median family income, with 18 units of permanently supportable housing, and 51 of our units will be 2- and 3-bedroom units that will address the need for family housing, particularly at the very affordable level. And that's the one we're doing in partnership with the YWCA. So yes, and the balance of those units will be at either all at 60% or half of those at 60% and half at 80%. So yeah, we're starting out the first two projects, basically all affordable housing. The one existing project, which is the Rose, 40% of those are at 60% of median family income. So we want it to be a mix of incomes. We want the neighborhood to be not all affordable housing, but a mixture, so that there's a mixture of income levels and housing types, all those things, so that it is an active, vital community that anyone would want to live in.
And I'd like to say Block 4 is similar. We are a little bit behind Gordon as far as design, but we are 6-to-1 FAR, and we will be 80% of median family income as well. So we will definitely have a big component of affordable housing. And the rest of it, we are configuring so we can have plenty of 3-bedroom units and doing all the things. We're just now getting our hands really in the works. But there will be a big affordable component to, I think, every building in Gateway.
Great. That's super exciting, you know, and I'm impressed with your numbers too. 1,000 to 2,000 units is a lot of units, and that's, how do you see that kind of playing out? Maybe over the next 10 years, 5 years? What's your thinking on that? Kind of depends on the market.
You know, it's the community's going to probably take longer than that because we have planned for parks, and so I would say 10 years. But what we're trying to do is set the bar high up front. Gordon's project in Block 4, we are going to set the bar high, and then watch what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. More comments? All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
This is really inspiring, and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just have, for confirmation, my recollection in reading the agreement is if there are any cost overruns, that's PBOT's responsibility. Is that correct?
That is correct. Our investment would be limited to up to $2 million. Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, I would say I would defer to PBOT if any of those overruns are shared by other bureaus or the property owners themselves or PBOT, but they would not be allocated to us. Correct.
And then, did you want to speak to the question that Commissioner Platt raised?
Certainly. I would say that one of the things that has excited me about this project is that that it's our investment into the infrastructure and kind of getting out of the way for private developers to do their work. I think that that has an opportunity to be like a very streamlined process. And I think that when you hear someone say they're ready to deliver on 1,000 to 2,000 units, if you make a sizable investment into the infrastructure, that feels like a great outcome. But certainly we are also invested in the success of the whole entire development, and that it delivers on the ambitious goals that it has in addition to those units. So I'm sure that we'll be in constant communication over how to be successful with the entire plan.
I think my interest was, I'm not as familiar with development projects that also have an associated nonprofit that does some of the associated work, programming related work, apparently management of the parks and open spaces, neighborhood watch, et cetera. So I'm curious about that dynamic, especially if this becomes more of a precedent and sort of a norm going forward in our work with private developers. I'm just curious about that element of things and whether that becomes part of our, something that our program Overwatch in any sort of way.
I'll take a stab at this. I think it's certainly something that would be an interesting conversation to continue, similar with the development. So probably the best models that we have of public-private partnerships in terms of more of the programmatic elements, that we've actually been talking about this with our bureau partners and the private partners around Broadway corridor. Similarly, is the Portland Mall Management, Inc. is a public-private partnership that manages the 5th and 6th Avenue malls. And it was pretty intentionally done to kind of support small businesses to address programming as well as operations and maintenance, acknowledging that it was a really distinct street for kind of the city of Portland. And then Parks has a number of these partnerships on different assets, all the way from the Chinese Garden to Leach Botanical Gardens. So I think there are good examples out there where there are nonprofits that we've partnered through, particularly through our community livability grants. And particularly around either workforce economic development or some of the community development roles that particularly parks or commercial spaces can play.
I guess I was struck by some of the language in Livable Gateway's community goals related to addressing issues of structural racism, racial equity and inclusivity, all elements of Prosper's work, and a lot of the work that's been done in creating this framework. So I'm wondering, again, if this is an opportunity to, again, help share some of those best practices and advisory in a way that could help accelerate the work that's being done on the ground by the development team.
Yeah, I think what would be worthwhile is we can certainly, as a nonprofit, we can talk with them. We have the Community Livability Grant, which just opened, as Kimberly announced, so we'll take the opportunity to promote it again. is like really thinking about what is phase one, because it's development that's going to play out over a long period of time. And so what's the programming and benefit outcomes that they're anticipating for phase one? And we could dig in and think about kind of, is that something that aligns nicely with our community livability grant timeline for this year? I would want to sit down and understand more on the development timeline of when is construction complete and people moving into programming relative to some of the programming that they're thinking about during the construction period.
Thank you. That helps me understand also just how we're adjusting our work in these different development projects to help streamline, as you were saying, the process and help create that quick and easy on-ramp, but also follow up and make sure that we're tracking in the same direction with respect to our goals.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, great.
I'm done.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve resolution number 7341, which is authorizing an IGA with PBOT for up to $2 million?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Okay, so now we're going to go back up our agenda to item number 7. And this is another IGA. This is authorizing an intergovernmental agreement to fund improvements to the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall in the South Park Blocks Tax Increment Finance District. Amy Nagy and Tony Barnes will present.
Really far over.
Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon, Director Branham. My name is Amy Nagy. I'm a project manager 2 in the Development and Investment Department here at Prosper Portland, and am joined today by my colleague, Tony Barnes, our finance manager. We're here today as part of a series of actions that you all have actually taken over the last few months to approve the agency's total investment of about $3 million into 2 significant downtown publicly owned community assets, the Multnomah County Central Library and the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall in the South Park Blocks Tax Increment Financing District. Just as a quick reminder, I've seen you a lot over the last few months. So in June, you all approved an amendment to the South Park Blocks Urban Renewal Plan to include both public buildings to enable them to benefit from the TIF investments in a manner that's consistent with the South Park Plan goals. And then in August, you all approved the first IGA, and that was for the improvements for the Central Library, and that was with the Multnomah County Library District for our investment of $1.5 million into upgrades into that facility. And so Tony and I are now here with 2 proposed actions for your consideration and approval. The first is to authorize Director Branham to execute an IGA now with the city and City of Portland and Metro to fund the other $1.5 million for improvements of the marquee at the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall. And then the second action is to amend the fiscal year 1920 budget to authorize additional funds to the infrastructure appropriation that would then fund the agreement. So the proposed actions align with Prosper Portland's strategic plan and outcomes, particularly in forming 21st century partnerships, as well as offering access to high-quality employment. So the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall, also known as the Schnitz, is one of the 5 venues of Portland's Center for the Arts. It is also referred to as the Portland 5, and it draws over 1 million patrons to Portland's cultural district in downtown and generates a significant amount of regional spending per year. In addition, the Portland 5 is the 5th largest performing arts center in the country. It presents over 1,000 annual performances and is an important anchor to the city, with also offering a robust education program that aims to remove barriers and provide access for a variety of performances and diverse kind of programming, and offering free performances at its venues and around our community, as well as career pathways into the arts and into administration. So this is actually a really great opportunity, I think, for our agency to partner with both the city and Metro to make the capital investments in this important community asset so that it can continue to deliver on those public benefits. And then from a jobs perspective, Our agency's workforce and equity policies would apply to the construction of the project. And so this is anticipated to be about 1.8 million project cost. And it then provides opportunities for people of color and for women contractors to participate in the construction. The building has the iconic Portland Blade sign that is facing the corner of South Broadway and South Main Street, which I've strategically managed not to include in this images, but I promise you it's here on the bottom. This was upgraded last year, and then the marquee that you see clearly in these images sits just below that sign, and it is now at the end of its useful life. And so it requires a series of improvements then to kind of reflect the upgrade of that sign that sits just above it. The improvements are ranging kind of from a host of things, replacing rusted sheet metal, upgrading the electrical wiring, updating the structural elements that will help it meet seismic code, and then restoring the marquee cabinet to its original appearance, and replacing the letter boards that you see here with an electronic LED graphic display that will return the marquee actually to the original black background with the white lettering. In addition to preserving the actual building itself, it also offers a series of kind of safety improvements, particularly for pedestrians and cyclists and staff that were at one point changing those letters. So they get a ladder up there, and it creates a whole kind of host of hazards. So this would remedy that. I have met with both the Downtown Neighborhood Association Land Use Committee as well as the Portland Business Alliance's Central City Committee to share our potential investment in the project, the scope, and just give them also an overview of what else we're doing as an agency in the area. They were really supportive of the projects and our participation in both of them. They asked that we keep them updated, so we'll continue to do that as the projects progress. And then just a couple of notes on the actual agreement itself. So as I had mentioned, the city and Metro are both parties to the agreement, and that is because the city and Metro have an operating and management agreement for the oversight of the Portland 5 venues through what's called the Metropolitan Exposition Recreation Commission. And so what we will do via this agreement is direct the funds directly to Metro, who will then contract and be responsible for the performance and completion of the project. We'll also work with them directly to ensure that the funds are applied as guided by the statutory requirements, as well as the timeline for the funds to be expended, and then ultimately work with them to contract compliance for the policies. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony.
Thanks, Amy. So Resolution 7339 is the authorization of the first budget amendment, which includes just this reallocation from contingency to the infrastructure line item in South Park blocks for $1 million. So going back to last year, towards the end of last fiscal year, the city refinanced South Park block bonds, generating about $2 million in savings, which could be allocated towards tax-exempt eligible projects. So looking at the projects, we ended up with Multnomah County's library and the Marquee project for a total of $3 million that were tax-exempt eligible. In the adopted budget, we included $2 million of those tax-exempt proceeds. Since the total projects are $3 million, we're reallocating $1 million from contingency. The impact here is that the contingency for the current fiscal year will be reduced to $4.3 million. And over the 5-year forecast, that has an impact of bringing it down to $223,000, looking at the total spending over the next 5 years. This doesn't impact any other programmed projects in the budget or 5-year forecast, the reallocation, but it does have an implication to how the dollars were anticipated to potentially be spent out via the financial sustainability plan. Those dollars, the $1 million, was anticipated to have some financial return, like a program and related investment return. So we'll be looking at how to reallocate those dollars through other districts and other allocations, and we'll revisit this as we bring the second budget amendment to you in November.
Okay. All right, one quick question. So just so I make sure I understand the numbers. So the total cost is about 1.8 million. We're adjusting the budget by 1 million. And then we are authorizing 1.5 million. So there's some deltas in there. So how does that gap get covered?
Sure. The two projects that came together in the end of the budget process totaled $3 million, so $1.5 million for Multnomah County's IGA, and $1.5 million that's represented in this proposed IGA, this recommended IGA. So the new financing that came together at the end of the budget process was $2 million, leaving a gap of $1 million that's identified in this budget amendment. So that $1 million is coming out of contingency from South Park blocks. That was not allocated to any other project in the 5-year budget yet. So
The
confusion with the 1.8 is the total project cost is 1.8 million. So the city and Metro will make up that delta of the 300.
Got it. That's where we're going. Yeah. Okay. Other questions? Okay. All right then. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to approve resolutions number 7338 and 7339?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, our last item today is number 8. This is an action item authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Portland Bureau of Revenue and Financial Services procurement services in an amount not to exceed $600,000 for business and workforce equity contract compliance services. And John Cardenas and Wendy Wilcox will join us. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I realize this is your last item of the day, so we are going to make this quick. We had prepared something for about 4 hours long. We're going to make this about 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. Good afternoon, Chair Cruz, Executive Director Branham, Commissioners. My name is John Cardenas. I am the Senior Construction Business and Workforce Equity Policy Manager, Project Manager, excuse me, here at Prosper Portland.
Good afternoon. I'm Wendy Wilcox, and I'm the Business and Workforce Equity and Green Building Policy Compliance Coordinator here at Prosper Portland.
Today we're going to quickly walk through the following items here. We're going to give you a little refresher on the Business and Workforce Equity program that we have here. We're going to talk about how it aligns to our strategic plan, our overall Prosper Portland strategic plan, and then specifically about the IGA and the changes that we're asking for today. Then we're going to show you some numbers about the impacts of the policy and the projects that we have, and then we'll talk about our next steps. Now, Wendy will run through the refresher.
Okay, so our business equity program is triggered on Prosper Portland-owned projects with construction costs greater than $200,000, and Prosper Portland-sponsored projects that receive over $300,000 with construction costs, again, greater than $200,000, and land sales made by Prosper Portland where the purchase price is greater than $300,000, and also with expected construction costs greater than $200,000. The goal for this program is 20% of professional services costs and hard construction costs will be awarded to certified firms. And for our workforce equity program, it's applied to Prosper Portland-owned projects with construction costs greater than $200,000, our sponsored projects with construction costs greater than $1 million, and Prosper Portland land sale greater than $300,000, and construction costs greater than $200,000. On this program, contractors and subs who have contracts of over $100,000 are required to utilize state-registered apprentices for 20% of labor hours in each apprenticeable trade. This program also includes workforce goals of 30% for people of color and 15% for women.
The way that the business and workforce equity policy attaches to our overall strategic plan is that it helps to deliver on aspects about quality jobs and prosperity and partnerships across the city. The core of this program is really accomplished through working together with quality teammates and quality team members and quality partners externally. And so I want to recognize definitely Wendy Wilcox for all of her work in compliance, ACE out the city, who actually gathers the data at the city and then delivers it to us in a coherent sort of fashion, and Kathleen Massier, who provides all kinds of other sort of internal technical assistance. They are from the Bureau of Revenue and Financial Services. And of course, all of the project managers that we have throughout our development and investment team. The numbers that we're going to go through in just a little bit, they're big numbers. These are real numbers, and we're going to be showing you numbers that span the last 4 years that are applied to about $366 million in construction projects. And to be honest and to be open, they're not all projects that we own, but they are projects that were triggered by some sort of activity, and our policies were triggered, and so they apply. These things are important because they are the ways that we're able to deliver on to deliver opportunities to people of color, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses in the construction industry, also to provide training opportunities to the workforce at large. And speaking of strong partnerships, our external partners are key in all of this. These logos that you see up here are the majority of the partners that we work with externally, although there are many others. Coordinating quality relationships with each one of these organizations has been key, and it's been central to the work that I've been doing over the last year or so. But most certainly, it couldn't be done without quality relationships with the folks that you see here. The IGA itself that we have with the City of Portland, we've had this IGA ongoing for 7 years, and we have renewed that IGA every year. The IGA was in the amount of about $120,000 a year, and that provides enough resources for the City of Portland to purchase the software that we use, 2 different kinds of software that Wendy will talk about in a second, and for staff time to collect the data and to report the data back to us. It was a suggestion by one of our attorneys, John Wasserman, to move it from a 1-year to a 5-year IGA, which I think makes a lot of sense. It gives them a lot more assurity running long-term, gives us a lot more assurity that we'll be able to have this quality partnership for a long time to come. So what we're asking for today is to move from $120,000 a year to $600,000 a year for 5 years. This will help to also continue to deliver the quality numbers and the data reporting on all of our projects, especially the big projects that we have coming up, like Broadway Corridor, of course, ODOT blocks, and the work that we're doing here in Old Town Chinatown. And Wendy's going to go through the 2 pieces of software that we use.
Yeah, I'll go through these real quickly. Our partners at the city have implemented 2 new industry standard software systems across all infrastructure bureaus. LCP Tracker, as you see here, is for workforce compliance. It's also used to track prevailing wage. John and I attended a regional conference this year for LCP Tracker, and I'm excited to say they're developing all sorts of ways to disaggregate the data, and we look forward to that functionality soon. And so for B2G now, it's our business equity and compliance reporting system, and we use it for professional services as well as hard construction costs. And in the past, for both of these systems, we received, without the systems, we received monthly reporting from the city, and these 2 new programs allow us the ability to get in and see what the projects are doing real time, which is really added benefit when you're trying to provide assistance to the projects to help them meet their goals. So, and we continue to maintain our commitment to increasing transparency around our projects by putting up our content on the website for business and workforce equity performance numbers, and we update these on a monthly basis. We think it's an important step for the agency, and it also helps make our partners more accountable.
In fact, we often receive calls from general contractors asking us when we'll be updating the information, and we've received a few calls from developers who were checking on contractors to see why they did or did not perform up to standard. So here are some business equity impacts. We've had 22 projects in our construction tracking pipeline, and 23% of the dollars on these projects have been awarded to certified firms. These
Wendy, sorry,
yes.
are these construction and costs and professional services
They're
combined?
professional services and hard construction.
Combined.
And they encompass our sponsored projects, our own, as you saw in the program itself, a large array. And this is it's about a 2 to 3 year period of time. I think some of these projects may have been on board 4 years ago, but just in the beginning phases. So these percentages represent real dollars to certified firms, a little over $85 million. This number includes $20 million awarded to minority firms, a little over $25 million awarded to disadvantaged businesses, and $30 million to women-owned businesses. These projects have also provided opportunities for smaller businesses to grow and be able to take on additional public projects in the future. We actually heard recently from a minority contractor, I think at a NAMAC meeting, who was able to update their construction paperwork system to an online system, making them more responsive out in the field. And this was as a result of assistance that was provided by them on 2 of our projects out in Lentz. So, and for our workforce equity impacts, these are averages for the same 22 projects. We were able to achieve a 27% average for the apprenticeship requirement, and we achieved a 29% average for the minority goal, 1% shy of that 30% goal. We are at 6% average for the female goal of 15%, and in regards to that, participation for women, this shows we have a ways to go to meet that, industry-wide actually. We can still do much better, and we can always increase the minority participation. And we're hoping that regional efforts like C2P2 will help us achieve this goal. And John is going to tell you some more right now about next steps and additional efforts.
So some of the things that we have going on, that we will have going on, is that we currently have refreshed and revamped our program specifications. This is going to make it a lot easier for minority contractors to work with us, to understand what's expected of them. It's written in a different kind of language that's not exactly as government heavy. That sort of language is very difficult for people to warm up to. We're also continuing our participation in the C2P2 effort, and that's the Construction Careers Pathways program, spearheaded by Metro, and it's 16 different regional partners that are coming together to look at ways to increase workforce for all of the region's construction projects, particularly in communities of color and for women. We've been with the C2P2 effort for just over a year now, and it's really starting to bear fruit, and I'm confident that it's going to lead to some really outstanding outcomes. One of the other things that we're deep into is the COEP, that is the Community Opportunities and Enhancement Program. That's through the City of Portland. That's a 1% collection of hard construction costs on City of Portland projects. Those funds will also go to help build workforce development opportunities and business development opportunities around the city, specifically for the construction industry. We're going to continue to work on relationship building. We're going to continue to work on internal processes to figure out how we can streamline our efforts or our processes to make it easier for people to work with us. I would hope that you see the benefit in the data collection and the data in general, and that you consider accepting our plea for the IGA. Do you have any questions?
I'm just curious to see, over the time that this has been going on, what are the kind of longitudinal improvements we've been tracking, and where do we see the most impact that we're having right now, so that we can kind of understand what are the tools that seem to be working the best and where are the areas we might want to retool a little bit.
So in my time in this particular position, I think what I've seen start to really firm up is I think some of our general contractors understanding about why this data is important and the necessity for them to report on time, and that we are now publicizing all of our numbers. And I think just that kind of communication, that level of communication and accountability is really starting to gel with the contractor community. And I think that that's an important thing to do. And that holds the general contractors and all the subs accountable, but it holds us accountable too, because we've got a responsibility to report on this fairly and evenly as well. And I think one of the things that we could improve perhaps the training that's around reporting. There's a lot of the subcontractors and general contractors that find reporting very, very difficult. It's not their forte. The back of the office stuff is difficult for a lot of these companies. And if there's a way that we can offer maybe some training or maybe some sort of slow ramp up to the level of reporting that we're going to be asking for, those would be some things that I'm most certainly considering now.
But I'd like to add that one benefit of the software is that once you're in the system, you're in the system. So it's helpful that you don't one training and then it's much easier.
We did hear from one subcontractor that it took one full project for them to really understand the reporting process and the reporting system, and then they found it very easy on subsequent projects.
Great. Other comments? No? Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, would someone like to make a motion to approve resolution number 7340, authorizing the IGA with the City of Portland? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay, passes unanimously. All right, so there being no further items on the agenda, the Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting is now adjourned.
It's